Welcome to Satsunami. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Satsunami. I'm Satsunami, and joining me, alone in the dark, is my very good friend Adam. Adam, welcome back, and especially welcome back after watching this film with me.
I mean, can we put the lights on now?
No.
We're sitting in we've sitting in the dark for so long.
It sets the mood, okay? It sets the tone of the review.
Or at least turn off the crappy death metal.
No, never. Well, okay, but we'll discuss that. We'll negotiate.
Next employer meeting.
Yeah, it'll just be me with a big notice saying no.
That's what every meeting turns into.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Every T-posing and or Satsunami meeting is just me saying, nah, and just being very petty. No reason at all. It's just like,
sitting there eating your pistachios, just looking down on us.
oh god, don't remind me of pistachios. It reminds me of that. I can't believe, of all times right now, before we're about to talk about this absolute masterpiece of sorry, choking on my own words there. I was going to say masterpiece of sorry, nope, can't say it. Can't say it's a masterpiece. Oh no. Anyway, that, joke aside. Yeah, it actually reminds me of when you and I were playing D&D, and that actually happened to one of my characters. Or sorry, my character that was playing. Like, I was supposed to be, like, sweet-talking someone, and instead, like, I ended up choking because I rolled a 1 or something like that. Do you remember? Were you at that one?
Oh, I remember. It was so damn funny.
Oh, yeah, it was, yeah. Yeah, remember, kids, never eat and roll a d20. It does not end well. This is your lesson of the day. So, if you want to follow me anywhere else, you get... No, I'm joking. No, we can't get out of it that easy. So,
no, we've got work to do.
No, we really do. In the name of 713, is it? Oh, I don't even know. I can't remember.
Be a bureau.
Yeah, I feel as if I put more thought into it than the writers, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. Yeah, we are going to be talking about the very infamous... I don't want to say film. The very infamous talkie. A very infamous video game film entitled Alone in the Dark. Directed by, quite possibly one of the most... Would it be safe to say hated? Directors, especially in terms of video game films, but yeah, one of the most...
God, yes.
Yeah, one of the most hated directors, Uwe Boll, and that's all I had to say. Yeah, it's a film.
Kind of getting a flavour of the way this episode's going to go.
Yeah. Oh god, just like the ending of Conan all over again. Satsu on his throne with his brow furrowed, lamenting over his losses. He won.
Boll's skull in your hand.
Oh. I think it would probably be the opposite, considering he keeps challenging like his critics. So yeah, that's
built a throne out of their skulls.
So yeah, that's a fun fact about the director of this film. So obviously he is a German director who made a lot of these films, and the reason being, I'm going to quickly touch on the tax thing. Do you mind?
You've got it's important backstory.
So very briefly, there used to be this law that Germany, I don't know if a lot of other European countries do it. I think they do, because I think Twin Peaks as well gets like a tax grant from France, at least for the third season. Either France or Quebec, but it was something like that. But yeah, anyway, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, yeah, Germany used to have this law where they would give a tax break to Hollywood, studios who would come over to film there. And these companies ended up coming over and they hired this guy called Uwe Boll. I haven't seen all of his work, so I can't say, he's 100% terrible. I feel as if 90% probably. At least with his video game films. But I can't sit here and say, oh yeah, all of his work's terrible, because, maybe there's a gem under that pile.
I have to say, I watched one film which was an original script that he came up with, and it was dreadful. So it doesn't give me much hope.
Better or worse than Birdemic?
Oh, do you know what? It's better than Birdemic in that at least it was mostly competently shot. So Slightly better. Not much though, to be honest, now I think about it.
But yeah, because of that, it was like, it didn't matter if the film bombed or, if the film was absolutely terrible, they didn't care, like the studios and Uwe himself, because they got the money back regardless due to the tax law. And I'm not saying it was single-handedly because of him, but I feel as if he was a huge part in the reason why they said, yeah, people are taking the mick now, we should probably not give money to anybody with a camcorder and a 10-year-old script, The script isn't 10 years old. I'm talking about the script writer. The script writer was 10 years old when they wrote this film. Where do we begin with this, Adam?
Well, I think maybe the best place to start is this is a video game film adaptation. So let's go back to the source material and just have a little look at the Alone in the Dark game series. Have you ever played any of them?
I haven't, although I did laugh because I realised that they started off in Atari, didn't they?
Yeah, yes, they did.
And I did laugh because I know your love of Atari is a deep visceral, a deep visceral love of Atari.
It's too powerful of anything.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, too hot for this stream. So yeah, sorry, no, I haven't played. Like, if I've not had any direct. It's like, no, Your Honour, I have not had any direct contact with these games.
You've had no direct contamination.
No, I haven't. Also, on an unrelated note, I don't know why there's a ditch in the desert filled with ET games. Yeah, that wasn't me. That wasn't my side.
They were there when I got there, Your Honour.
Your Honour, please. It was Atari. No one's going to miss it. Anyway, sorry, no. That was a long way to say no. I haven't.
No. Well, the first game in this series was released back in 1992, so yeah, quite a while ago now. And it's considered sort of the grandfather of the survival horror genre, in that like a lot of things that it developed were kind of taken on by games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill, and it's in a way, like, if you actually look at it, it's probably quite like an influential game. Wow. In history. It appears to be a game that has not aged well in the slightest. In every aspect. Go look at some of the screenshots from it. The graphic, it might be the worst looking game like now that I've ever seen. It looks horrific, and I think the gameplay as well is quite. It's that kind of tank control style, but like the kind of old Resident Evils and Silent Hills and stuff. But like right at the beginning of tank control, so they're even worse. So there were two sequels to the original one. Then they did a reboot in 2001, which is what the film is based on. The plot of that game. And then there were two modern, they're almost soft reboots. I'm not really sure, because I think they carry on some things. Like, they still have the same main character and some of the same details, but it seems a bit changed. So I've kind of called them soft reboots. But this is a franchise that has fallen from grace spectacularly. In that, like, the first game is considered to be really influential, and the most recent entries have been critically panned. But then what do you expect from an Atari franchise? Am I right? There it is again, another shot. They like to kick somebody when they're down.
Oh, of course.
It's much easier when they're standing on their feet.
When was the last time Atari was like left standing on its feet?
I don't know, like the Stone Age. I don't know. Did human beings walk the earth then? I don't know. I've only played one of these games. I played the 2008 kind of quote unquote soft reboot, and like. Yeah, it's not a very good game. It's not a very. I mean, there's some interesting things in it, but overall, not a very good game. I wouldn't recommend.
Do you know?
Probably like 10.
Do you know? Funny enough, Alone in the Dark is one of those games that. When you went into, and this is me again showing my age, but when you went into Blockbuster, or even when you go into like a game store and you see that one cover of a game like everywhere, know that way where it's like you go in and you see like I think the one for me was probably Condemned. I used to see that a lot, or Deadly Premonition, or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
For this one, it always seemed to pop up, and it was is that the one where it's like the guy with like the brown hair and he's got like the gun and the and everything, and it's like Alone in the Dark. And it's like, oh man, this game looks cool, and I can't speak for whether or not it is because I never played it, but yeah, is it not?
It is not. Like I was looking at the cover there. I'm like, yeah, it's like that. It's such a generic cover. You exactly described it perfectly.
Oh really?
Brown hair, white male with a gun. in a black leather jacket with "Alone in the Dark" in the middle of it.
There was a lot of because see when I thought of that, I honestly drew parallels to see Alan Wake.
Oh yeah,
Because that's got a very similar not title, a very similar cover where it's like the guy standing on the cover with a gun, and it's just like Alan Wake, and he's literally alone in the dark. But that's So yeah, today's question is: did Alan Wake copy Alone in the Dark? We will be going. No, I'm joking.
Oh my god,
No.
we're gonna crack this case wide open.
No. Welcome to our panorama of this. Just like a quick fun fact about this, actually. I can't remember what version it was. It looked as if it was like the PS1. Because genuinely, that's the way the graphics looked. It was like that kind of blocky 3D kind of thing. And oh my god, it was terrible. But apparently there was a scene where this, like, you play as a woman in it. Someone was showing off like one of the animations where it's like what happens if you get a game over, and it's like this really weird thing where a zombie like hits you and then drags you away. Apparently though, they actually give you the option to save, or not, they give you the option, but you can actually save during that scene, which means you basically soft lock your game into the game over scene.
Amazing.
Isn't it? Yeah, so
what's that option?
I don't know. Like, I feel as if it's like, you know what, I'm not here to defend them, okay? It's like, Your Honour, I'm not here to defend the developers. It was their fault. They were there.
I think it is that classic example of a game that like deserves to be in a museum now. Like, I don't. It's not meant to be played. It's meant to be like studied and be like, oh yes, that's that's very influential, and we can see what like came from it. But let's just leave it. Let's leave it in the case. Put it behind some glass, and then just leave it there.
But I can imagine though if they did put it in a museum, they wouldn't put it. You get some video games where it's like, oh look, it's like a first edition of like Super Mario or something.
Yeah.
And it's behind like the thick glass and
yeah,
like the sensors and things like that, so you can't touch it. Yeah, I get the feeling that like Alone in the Dark would just be in the middle of a podium, just on top of one of those. Have you ever been to IKEA and seen one of those like wooden things that you prop up your tablet or your books with? Just like one of them.
Sitting on that.
Yeah, just sitting on that. And I'm not dissing IKEA, by the way, because they are brilliant stands, but you know what I'm getting at. It's like, there's not really much, unless, like, if there's any Alone in the Dark fans out there, if this was your childhood, please feel free to let us know, because we would love to hear what you have to say. But yeah, I've never met anybody that said, oh, Alone in the Dark was my jam. Like, have you ever met anyone like that?
No, and I think to still be an Alone in the Dark fan, you have to be in some pretty strong denial. Like we joke about some other franchises, like you have to be in denial. You seriously, like, I don't know what you have to take to convince yourself that everything is still good. But well, actually, no, there is some hope. I saw that the Alone in the Dark has moved away from Atari. It's now like THQ that own it, so maybe there's hope. You never know. Don't give up just yet. But maybe do. Give up, You had one good game.
I mean, coming from the person who used to like Sonic growing up, it doesn't get any easier. Cut your losses. Find another franchise.
Get out, man.
Yeah. I mean, even what was that franchise called? The one with the guy with the big scissors. It was like Clock Tower or something.
Clock Tower, yeah, that's it.
Was it Clock Tower? Yeah. Yeah, even that, did that not get a reboot? I can't even remember. Well, it used to be a Famicom game, I think, and then it got I think it was like a PlayStation 2 release. Like an actual, like, 3D models and things. I know I'm going off tangent here, but yeah, apparently so. Because I remember seeing somebody stream it and thinking, good for them. They've got a hobby.
Good for them, indeed.
They've got a hobby. That's good for them. Yeah, but Alone in the Dark, I can't see anyone coming out the woodwork to, send threatening letters being like, this is my favourite game of all time. And I kind of feel bad for that, because I feel as if it's like an easy target. But then again, we have been through some hard times the last couple of weeks. We had to watch Birdemic, the Super Mario Brothers film. I feel as if we need this one.
We need easy targets, let's be honest.
We do.
We need to win.
We need this one. Absolutely.
We need the Glass Joe of like video game franchises to beat down on. Get our confidence back.
Exactly.
Do you have anything else to say about the
video? No. Please.
We'll go into the film. We'll go into the patient. today.
Actually, sorry, before we do move on to that, I've got a quick question for you, just in regards to the film. And it's a bit of an impromptu question, but how did you actually hear about the film? Like,
That's a
when...
very good question.
Yeah, like, when was the first time you heard about this? Because this is an infamous film. This isn't like your standard, oh, it's a bad film. This is one of, well, considered to be one of the worst films of all time. Which, I'll save my opinion for later, but... Yeah, like it is. It's like 1% on IMDb and everything.
Yeah, it's scathing. The critical reception, the critical reception was rather scathing. I think is a kind way to put it.
Yeah.
I think I must have first heard about it. I think I must have heard about it about the same time that I played the Alone in the Dark game from 2008. I think is maybe when I think I did a little bit of looking up about like the series, and I think I saw that there was a film. I don't remember hearing about its reputation. I think I only discovered its reputation fairly recently, as like looking into like kind of bad films, especially like because we dug into like looking at like video game movies. That's when I was like, oh wow, this is this is a stinker. This is a notorious stinker here. But the minute I saw it was on Prime, I was like, ding 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 ding, let's do this.
And you never turned back.
Never turned back.
No.
God, I wish I had. But how did you hear about it? Did you hear about it before?
Do you know, I honestly can't remember. I think it was because I used to watch a lot of videos of like people reviewing bad films and like kind of comical ones. So I think there was definitely one where they did Alone in the Dark, but I think it's a combination between that and again like actively searching for bad films. It's a bit like the start of like a kids horror film. That way where it's like, now Billy, don't you read the Necronomicon? And it's like, okay, I won't. And then 2 seconds later, Billy's like speaking in tongues because he wouldn't bloody listen, but that's beside the point, Timmy. But yeah, it's like I decided to kind of like look into the bad films because I do have friends who have said that before. They've been like, oh, why would you watch a bad movie? It's like, why would you actively like choose to watch a bad film? But there's something like cathartic about it.
God, yeah.
Like just being able to watch a film where like it's kind of a mutual exchange, if you will. It's like, oh, I know this film's bad. You know this film's bad. Let's, let's just enjoy the experience and see how really, how bad it really is. But yeah, that was I think the first time I saw it, but I wasn't really interested in watching it because I think the review that I watched just kind of went through the film on like a scene by scene basis, like a kind of abridged version of it. And you're like, okay, yeah, and this isn't really for me. And then about several years later, you said, let's watch it. And yeah, this is why this is the last Satsunami ever.
We're shutting it down after this. We're into quarantine.
Yeah, just like the creatures in this, it's like, we're shutting it down.
Don't open it, no!
Oh, no!
Don't open the podcast now! What have you done?
I know, I'll just be hiding in the middle of a ship and I'll get out and I'll be like, do you know what will be inside that box? I'll be the one Alone in the Dark fan. But anyway,
corpse, like holding on to the collection of games. It's still good.
I know, Uwe Boll was a genius. But anyway, sorry, I'm getting like way too ahead of myself, Sam. Yeah, I'll give you the honour.
Let's get the basic facts, then we can dive right into this corpse pile and start rummaging around. So the film was released in early 2005, directed by famed restaurateur Uwe Boll, and starring past their primes Christian Slater and Tara Reid, along with a lot of other people who I've never heard of. So, film was a commercial failure, if you couldn't guess. Grossed $12.7 million against its budget of $20 million. As we've said, a very hostile critical reception. It's 1% on Rotten Tomatoes, still viewed as one of the worst films ever made. It received 2 Razzie nominations that year, which, if you don't know, is like the reverse Oscars, where there was for like the worst films of the year. So it had 2 nominations, but it didn't win either of them, which is kind of a victory. Wow. So there you go. There was a little bit of light poking through the dung pile that was surrounding this. So I tell you what, we've danced around it. Let's get rummaging, diving in. Was there anything that you liked about it?
I liked the ending. I liked when it was over and I was allowed to close my eyes and say, thank God it's over. Praise be, hallelujah, etc. Now, jokes aside, it was competently shot. Maybe?
For the most part, it was, I would say.
I have to admit, like, it wasn't the editing in this is awful. The editing is terrible, but most of the cinematography was it. See, this is the thing I'm conflicted about because it is a terrible film. I'm going to put my cards on the table and say this is an awful film. It feels like a first draft of a film, if you know what I mean. Like, so can I touch on the beginning? Of like how
Oh, go for it.
Yeah.
We're diving in. Go touch on whatever you want.
So at the very
touch me afterwards.
Yeah, no, don't worry. You and I will be at a safe distance after this, believe you me. But basically, how do you even describe this? So you know at the beginning of Star Wars, you have the opening crawl, and you've got like as I've said before, like the bombastic music where it's, you know, the theme, and it's like, the Empire is coming to get you, and all of this, you know, like the classic, like the Flash Gordon. That's what it's based off of. So
yeah,
you know, it's like, oh, that's really cool. I can't wait for this. They do something similar, only this time they do it in Windows Movie Maker. Where they have like the text rolling up, and it's like this. I can't even remember. Do you remember the name of like the secret people or organization?
You know what? I don't know what this says about me, but I actually do. The Abkhani.
Abkhani, that's it. See, I remember.
How do I remember these things?
I remembered it when we were watching it, but as soon as I switched off the film, everything went out of my brain. I was like, I have no idea. So yeah, it's like the Abkhani, where I don't even know who they were. It's like they were a group. I don't know. They were a restaurant. I don't know.
They were in the.
I mean, I genuinely, they just keep saying the Abkhani were ancient ones, and it's like
they were a discount store franchise.
Yeah, what, next to the Clarks? I mean, what? I genuinely don't get what they were going for there. Well, I do, but you know what I mean. It's like, as I said, this whole film feels like a first draft. Like, I was actually, see, when I was watching the beginning, I was thinking of ways that this is something I don't normally do, because, as I've said before, I'm not a filmmaker. Like, the closest I've ever got to filmmaking was when I was in primary school, and I did homemade films and things like that. So, I'm not a filmmaker, but I feel as if I could have done the opening far better. And I hate to say that. I don't want to be pretentious and be like, oh well, if it was my film. Because 9 times out of 10 with these bad films, if they mess up, it's like, at least they can fall back in. Like, for instance, M. Night Shyamalan, like, he's done a lot of stinkers, right? But at least they can fall back in, like, other good films he's done, like The Sixth Sense, and other ones that I can't remember right now. But,
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable, thank you. But yeah, it's like, usually they can, you know, go to their portfolio. But with this one, it is the laziest opening. It's just a text scroll that's like, the Abkhani decided to... oh god, it's just so generic. It honestly is like an edgy teenager writing this. It's like, there's like light forces and bad forces, and then this guy who, I have to admit, I did laugh at your description of him. But yeah, this FBI agent, or sorry, secret agent, is like kidnapping orphans to experiment on, to fight off the darkness, and the Abkhani have disappeared, and the prom's tomorrow. It's the exposition dump of the century. That goes on for a solid couple of minutes, describing all this stuff that I feel as if half of it you could have cut out. I mean, there was no need to like talk about the Abkhani. It was just like, because they never get mentioned again, or if they do, it's like in passing, unless I could be entirely wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong.
No, like, you're right, they refer to like art, they get brought up, it's like, oh, we have another Abkhani artifact here, and then it's often they'll be referenced, but they're not like, you know, we don't meet any Abkhani people, we don't go to like, you know, an ancient Abkhani site or anything like that. Like, I know we're supposed to be talking about the good points this
yeah
you've brought up something, and then like when you brought up the narration, my head went into my hands.
Yeah.
Remember, we both watched this last night. Was it the first time you'd seen it, by the way?
Yeah, like, this is the first time I've like seen it from start to finish. Yeah,
fair enough. So we were both watching it for the first time last night, and we were messaging back and forth as we were watching it, and I went crazy at the narration, because the opening narration, it sounds like something out of a bad PS1 game.
Yeah,
as you're right, the Abkhani believed in the dark world, and you know, it's all that, like, as you said, like some edgy teenager wrote this, like, I don't know, after too much Monster, and then, but not like, if it was just that one, okay, if it was just that one block of narration, I would probably be like, right, that was terrible, but at least we're done. But throughout the film, the main character, Edward Carnby, played by Christian Slater, has these constant internal monologues, and it's just like, I always feel that, like, you can tell the quality of a film a lot of the times by the amount of internal monologue.
Yeah.
Because I feel it's a way that like filmmakers who can't like show, the old like show don't tell.
Yeah.
People who can't show have to like dump this knowledge on you to be like, are you paying attention? Do you understand? Do you see? Do you see?
Yeah.
Do you see my brilliance? He does at least 3, I swear. There might even be more.
Oh, yeah.
And they are like chunky, like they are chunky bits of internal monologue.
Some of them are just unnecessary, though. Like, there's a scene at the
They
beginning.
all are.
There's a scene at the beginning with this child too. I'm sorry, I take objection to this child for several reasons, but let's stick to the main reason. The main reason being, he's like what, 8, 9 years old, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
And he talks like a 5-year-old. He's like, my mummy says there's nothing to be afraid of in the dark. Do you remember, like, this is a funnier example, but do you remember Matilda? Where it was like one of the children says, my mummy said something, and it's Miss Trunchbull that goes up to her and goes, your mother is a twit. It's like the equivalent of that, but less funny. It's like he turns around and he says, being afraid of the dark is the only thing keeping us alive, kid. And you're like, Jesus Christ, what are you on? And then there's the narration, as you said, that you think I was being an ass to that kid, but let me tell you, it'll save him one day. And it's like, spoilers, it doesn't. And, sorry, kind of flashing back slightly, but the way it begins after the terrible crawl, and again, I was kind of laughing when you said we should be staying on the positives, because I just immediately...
We're going back and we're having a change of format on the fly. Yeah. We're going back and forth here. Just whatever comes up, we're just going to talk about. Good, bad.
Oh, God.
There's nothing in the middle. It's mostly bad. Let's just go.
Because the main premise essentially is a secret government organisation is... In fact, no, sorry, let me rewind further. It's a rogue scientist in a secret organisation that is trying to make sleeper agents of these orphans. My favourite line in the film, or one of my favourite lines, because we were both thinking the same thing, is when he goes to the nun. Spot the stereotype. But, it's like he goes to the orphanage where this nun is like looking after 20 of these kids, and he's like, oh, it's fine, we're going to take these kids away because we've experimented on them. So here's what you tell the police. I woke up and they were gone. And it's like, what, 20 children just gone. But then it turns out, plot twist, it was only 19 they managed to get away, because the other one climbs into like this, what is it again? It's like the
electrical box, isn't it?
Yeah, the electrical box. It's literally
Transformer type thing.
Yeah, it's literally the opposite of all the like PSA videos that we used to watch in school. So we used to, like, I'm assuming you were the same, but we used to have this class in school called PSE. It was like personal social education, something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, by the way, because I genuinely can't remember.
I don't remember either. But that sounds about right.
But you used to get these like terrible like videos from basically the 70s, I want to say. Like the 70s or 80s. Sometimes they were from Australia. I don't know why. Sometimes they were. But like the ones we watched, there used to be a horrible one where it was like this wee boy was playing football with his friends, and then like someone kicks a ball in there and he's like, don't worry, I've got it. And then, spoilers, he don't got it, because one child versus a live transformer is not going to end well. You don't need
those odds.
No, you don't need a PSA to tell you that. But somehow this child sneaks in, and he's fine. He's sitting beside like the coils, and the coils have like live electricity going up them, and I'm like, Jesus. Like, obviously I know it's not real, but I'm like, Jesus. Well, it's Uwe Boll, maybe he's.
Part of me worries that perhaps it was like a real. You've seen the sets in this thing. I wouldn't half put it past them to have just like broken into it. Thing and been like, right, kids.
But is it like the James Nguyen of like filming where he wants and then running away? It's like, I got permission.
Slightly more skilled at it.
Yeah, it's like, I've got permission. Run, go. So yeah, that happens, and then it turns out that the runaway orphan was the main character, and do you want to describe? In fact, no, we won't go through it point by point, but yeah, it's just what follows is just generic action, generic acting. In fact, sorry, that's an offence to generic actors. The acting is terrible, but I am going to put a positive spin on it. It wasn't boring.
That's a very fair point.
Here is the thing, like, as I've said before, I've watched a hell of a lot of terrible films. Same to you. You've watched terrible ones
Yeah.
as well. We're both shared in the experience. I feel as if that's why
Yeah.
we're friends now. It's like it's like the unspeakable truth of we must never let anybody watch these films again. But it's like a film like Turkish Star Wars. I absolutely hate that film. I think it's one of the worst films ever. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's so bad, it's good," and it's like, no, it's just boring. It's nonsensical nonsense. Well, yeah, get a thesaurus, that's it. But it's just nonsense and just loud and it's terrible. But that's the thing though. I remember watching that and feeling utterly bored, and I have watched other films where I just sat there thinking, my god, this is boring. Same with like Man of Steel. Like at the very beginning of it, I'm not saying Man of Steel is anywhere near like the level of these ones, but it's like that idea that like a scene goes on too long or dialogue isn't great. You know, that kind of thing. But with this, I feel as if I watched this on my own, I would definitely say this is a terrible film, like hands down.
Yeah.
But if I watched it with someone, which I did, I watched it with you, then it's got some entertainment in it because the acting is goofy. It's cheesy, it's not good, but there's a lot of fun to take out of it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you and I were messaging about, like, certain extras. So there was, like, a soldier called Miles. I know you got attached to, and you're like...
Oh, man. Force him out.
It was like, please tell me he's going to survive. And I attached on to, I think it was, like, a security guard called Rob, who was a sassy bitch in this, by the way.
He was.
Oh, he just kept, like, sassing every single character. He was like, oh, yeah, your boyfriend, to the, like, main love interest. It's like, my God, Rob, bugger off. Get another job. But yeah, he ends up getting sliced and diced, and it was a sad moment. I had to pause the video for... I was like, pause the film for, a brief moment to pay respects, but it was a sad time. But no, jokes aside, yeah, I do think that's one of the strong points in it, that it's kind of so bad that you could have friends round and just be like, oh yeah, let's enjoy how terrible this film is. It wasn't boring.
Yeah.
It kept going, like, despite the beginning, because I think that was the catchphrase of this film, what the hell's happening? Like,
it was, there were so many points. There was a point where I looked away for a second and I was like, what the hell is happening now?
Oh yeah, like, a character got stabbed, in fact, no, not stabbed, well, stabbed, but the main character, one of the main characters, throws a knife in his chest, and the guy starts rubbing his nipple and shooting in the air, going, ah! And you, like, messaged me saying, wait, how did he die? I was like...
I was watching the screen, and like, he had, the bad guy had, like, the gun pointing at them, and he was like, I win. I looked down for a second, I think check if you sent me a message or anything. I looked, but as you say, he's rubbing his nipples and firing this gun in the air. I'm like, what's happening? What did I miss in that? It was like half a second I looked away. That was funny.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I think, like, I would also agree with you. That was one of the like good points I wrote down about this film. I think it makes for a good like communal watch, as you say. Like this is one that I totally agree. If I'd watched this by myself, I would have like I wouldn't have come into work today for this. I just called it sick, and written angry letters to Mr. Bull. As well, like I totally agree. Like it doesn't overstay its welcome. In the sense that it's a terrible film, but like I agree with you. Like I think it keeps after that, like after the terrible opening crawl of all the text, it does keep on fairly fast paced, and that I didn't feel like I was sitting there like, oh my god, like we still got like an hour left of this, or like, oh my god, there's still half an hour. I was like, all right, it went along at a fairly good clip. Yeah. So that is a positive, I would say. Like I mean, it overstays its welcome in the fact that it should never have been made.
Oh yeah,
but it doesn't overstay its welcome, like, beyond that. I agree with you with the acting. Like, the acting is terrible. You're totally right. But it is that kind of goofy terrible. I think the only, like, what I'd say, quote-unquote, bad acting, Tara Reid is terrible. Like, no offense to Mrs. Reid, or Miss Reid, I don't know what her marital status, but I don't think I've only seen her in a couple of things, but I don't think I've ever seen her in anything where I thought, oh, that was good. I don't think. I mean, and I think she kind of found her niche, didn't she, with like the Sharknado films?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
was most well known for now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was it Sharknado that she was in?
Yeah, she didn't. I don't know how many, but I think she became quite synonymous. There's a quite famous thing where like she has like a saw blade in her hand, and she's like sawing up the sharks as they come flying out of the tornado at one point. So I think she became quite synonymous with them, and that's kind of where she's fallen into. I mean, Christian Slater as well. This was like, this was in the doldrums of his career. I think he's having maybe a slight renaissance now. maybe ever so slight, but this was in the proper doldrums of his career. I don't know, like it was bad, but I can't remember. I don't think it was Tara Reid bad. His acting, like maybe just a step above. But
Wow.
the extras were a lot.
Sorry, I was just saying, wow. It's like, it's bad, but it's not Tara Reid bad. It's like, wow.
Is that the definition of damning with faint praise?
I think so, yeah. It's a backhanded compliment if I've
There
ever
you
seen
go.
one.
You can put that on Christian Slater's resume.
There's
He's
no
bad.
Tara Reid.
Tara Reid that. But yeah, like I mean, oh god, is there any other points you want to get into? Good or bad? Good, bad, ugly. All the feelings.
I suppose the the animation as well. We'll get to that, but the editing is terrible. It's like there's a lot of flashes, there's a lot of cuts. There's like, especially for the fight scenes. What the hell were they?
Oh god.
Like where they put them in a dark room, and whenever there's like a really hyped up, scene where they have to like fire guns and things, they put on like this heavy, as you said before, this heavy metal track, and they just start blasting away, and it's like, why? What is going on here?
It literally becomes a music video at one point. Do you know that bit? Like, do you know where so like the monsters all break into Edward Carnby's, I can't remember if we mentioned that character's name. His apartment, break in, and then like the bureau soldiers come in, like to like rescue Edward Carnby, whatever Tara Reid's character is. There's a point where like there's a big firefight happen. As you say, it's shot in the most. I remember being like watching like, what's happening? As did you say, like it's almost like strobe. It's like strobe effects behind like all the soldiers, and the gunfire is so bright and flashy, and the monsters are all moving in kind of like that terrible like slow, like mix of slow-mo and fast like style of editing and stuff. And the music's playing, and I was like, this is literally a crappy music video.
Yeah, maybe they just wanted to do it to double up so they didn't have to go back and make the music video.
You know what? Fair point. Why do you same job twice?
This is a thing I don't get though, because the way they describe the monsters, they say, "Oh, they're invisible." Yet 2 seconds later, they like show the monster, and it's like, why? Why would you show the monsters if they're invisible? Because nobody, as far as I know, no one sees them, even though they're shooting at them. I don't know. There's the whole like, maybe I'm going mad trying to find reason in this film. I don't know. It's just like,
I mean, it seems highly likely.
yeah, it's like, oh yeah, let's create this like really cheap looking 3D model for. I mean, again, it's not the worst I've seen, but also two quick things. Just going back to the editing quickly. I remember like when the film finished, I turned it off. I was like, oh, what a great film, and you were like, oh, did you see the after credits scene? And I was like, what do you mean the after credit scene? So if you watch, at least for the Amazon one, I don't know if this is like a feature on the DVD or any other release, but in the Amazon Prime version, there's a bit at the end, like after you go through the credits, where it's like a blank screen for a couple of minutes, and there's like a 3 to 5 minute chunk of just nothing really. Like they splice in clips of the film, but it's like quiet clips.
There's no audio.
There's no audio, it's just clips of the film. And it's just like random ones. It's not even like, I think there's one of the orphanage, there's one of like just a street shot, there's one that's like, it's like one of those things that you would see in one of these YouTube like creepypasta videos where it's like, what is the meaning behind Alone in the Dark's post-credit scene? Let's have a look. And then it turns out it's like a CD, like satanic cult or something. It's like, I knew it. Uwe Boll, it's your house. It's like, I don't get it. But the other thing, like going back quickly, and this became a running joke throughout the entire film, was there's a character, like one of the fellow orphans that the main character grew up with, and called John. Sorry, let me reiterate, called John. And there's a scene where basically all the orphans that got experimented on start to wake up because, as I said before, they're like sleeper agents, aren't they?
Yeah.
So there's like something that wakens them and they just start walking away. In one of the scenes, the wife like looks up, like he gets out of bed in the middle of the night and the wife looks up and goes, "Oh, John." And that became like the running joke because every time someone died, there was like this understated, like, this understated reaction of, "Oh no, not Rob." And that was just a running theme of it. It's just like, "Oh no, not that guy." It's like, Oh, just,
watching for that running joke. It was so funny.
oh, it really was.
Honestly, like the end credit scene is the creepiest part of that film because I remember being like, "What is this? Like, why is this here? Why is there no audio?" Like, if anybody like knows anything about like filmmaking or like turning a film into a DVD, if anybody knows the actual reason why that would be there, please like let us know because I am genuinely creeped out and fascinated why that is there, or if it's just some like I can't even imagine why it's there, but I'd love to know. But I think as well, like I think we can go nicely on from that, as you said. Oh no, John. This film makes no sense. The plot is like because you described the guy perfectly there as this fellow orphan called John. We're never told at any point who this man is until like I think he's dead, and he's like he's one of my fellow orphans. But like I don't know, like you're like so who's this guy? Like why is this happening? And then he's like and then like Christian Slater goes to see the wife of John's wife, and then it's like me and John are really close. We're like who is John?
Yeah.
Man, why do you know each other? We don't find out until like after he's dead that he was an orphan. Like that would have been handy to know. But like none of this plot holds together in the slightest way. Like, as you say, it's all like dark world forces and the Ebkani and government conspiracy. But I don't know. It's so bad. Like I was actually reading the original script was more meant to be based on like sort of the first Alone in the Dark game. So basically, the plot of the first Alone in the Dark game is you plays Edward Carnby, who's like the main hero of the series, and he's this private investigator. And he goes to this like it's set in the 1920s, and he goes to this like mansion in like rural Louisiana and gets like trapped inside it and like attacked by all these dark forces. And I think it was going to be something akin to that originally. Then the original script writer has some very choice words to describe working with Uwe Boll, and he says that basically the gist of it is that Uwe Boll took his script, threw out all the kind of like subtlety and like they weren't going to ever show the monsters in the original script and stuff. He threw all that out and put in like the the crappy CGI monsters, put in Tara Reid's character, mad scientists, like the arm, like the kind of government agency, alternate dimensions, the Matrix style slow motion stuff, and just completely turned it into and put in all those big like narration crawls. Completely turned it around. So there might have at one point been something interesting here, but it was just like mangled beyond any kind of legibility or like being able to understand it.
See, this is the thing I don't get, because as I said, they say throughout the film that these monsters are supposed to be invisible, and you would think that, given that let's face it, this film is a tax write-off. I'm not even going to be like, maybe there was an artistic vision. No, there clearly wasn't. There was about as much artistic vision as there was like parallels to the original of Super Mario and the Super Mario Brothers film. It's like, oh yeah, the title's the same. Great. It's like, what else?
Job done.
Yeah, I know, but like, I have to admit, in this, and I know we're going to kind of talk about it, but like, where Super Mario failed, at least it had some good bits compared to, the rest of the film, or compared to Alone in the Dark, which is just a mess in comparison. But no, this one was definitely a tax write-off. But if it was going to be a tax write-off, why did he bother with the CGI monsters?
Yeah.
Like, you think he would be able to cut costs if they were invisible? Like, I know it wouldn't have been as visually interesting, but, I mean, come on. That could have, like, bought... I don't even know. I was going to make a joke about, like, him buying a ticket to, like, escape the country after this terrible film, but let's face it, he did not go anywhere after this.
He's practically said to fight people. He's like, come at me, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Masterpiece.
I still can't believe people took him up on that offer.
After watching this, would you not take up the offer to punch Uwe Boll in the face?
No, because I get the feeling that he does seem like a very angry man. Like, I don't know how he is now. Maybe he's mellowed out or maybe he's matured a bit, but especially, like, did he not, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but did he not start, like, a GoFundMe for, like, one of his, or not a GoFundMe, but something similar for one of his films, and then when he didn't get the money, he said, like, F you to everyone.
Just what every good legitimate filmmaker does.
I could be wrong in that, but I'm
Go to GoFundMe and then crap on him.
Like, I'm sure he did. I could be totally wrong in this, but I'm sure he did, because he's like, the title of the video was something like F you all or something. It's like, are you serious, Uwe? I don't know, because as you said, when you said, like, kind of offhandedly there, he's like a restaurateur. I mean, he is now, isn't he? He works in, like, I think it's America?
Well,
or is it? No, not America.
Canada,
Canada, sorry.
Vancouver, I think. Back into filmmaking, apparently. He wants to make his big return. So watch this space. We may end up doing another one of these down the line.
Oh, I don't want.
No.
I don't want to. You can't make
Why did
me.
Why did I just commit us to doing that?
Oh, you know what? If I have to pay the money and risk getting a deadly virus. But enough about the pandemic. Or sorry, enough about his films. God. Speaking of Alone in the Dark, God. But anyway, sorry, go on. take us away.
Where to go? I mean, I think I'll go into another bad point here.
Yeah.
Like, and we kind of touched on this. This is a very poor adaptation of the source material.
Oh yeah.
So it's loose. It's supposed to be based on this like fourth Alone in the Dark game, which was like a reboot of the franchise, which I think is actually one that was fairly well received as a game. I read the plot to this game. Apart from the main character sharing the same name, it being set in America, and like maybe they dress kind of the same. There's no kind of like comparison at all. Like the plot of the game is kind of centered on this like spooky mansion, where Edward Carnby ends up. It's and he's investigating the death of his partner, detective partner, and he kind of finds this sort of otherworldly thing, which doesn't seem to be anything to do with the Abkhani or anything. So again, a very loose, quote unquote, loose adaptation, I think. But do you know what's actually quite funny? It's a terrible adaptation of the game that it's supposed to be based on. But actually, it's actually not a bad adaptation of the 2008 Alone in the Dark game.
Oh,
it's
God.
pretty funny. It's almost like the 2008 game copied parts of this film for some reason. So the kind of plot of the 2008 game is that basically Edward Carnby wakes up, but he's lost his memory. He gets involved in some kind of exorcism, and he loses his memory, and it basically ends up this like there's a demonic presence under Central Park in New York City, and it gets unleashed, and basically he has to like venture into Central Park to like prevent the devil from rising and stuff. And so like but there are some quite interesting parallels, especially in the monster design. So do you know when the orphans like go kind of get activated and attack?
Yeah.
Edward Carnby, and Tara Reid's character, they actually look very similar to the kind of like zombie enemies that are in the game. Quite strikingly in the way that they're very fast moving. They have that kind of pale face with the kind of like looks like they're wearing mascara on the eyes and the kind of like bloodshot eyes and stuff. There's also I think some of the like almost the kind of scorpion monsters that are in the film as well are kind of replicated in that. Again, Edward Carnby's personality is very similar to the Christian Slater. There's a one bit which sums up the whole game for me, where like you get into like a boss fight and it's against like basically a giant like scorpion with this like kind of like zombie demon like torso and head on it, and the zombie and the boss is like, oh, we will bring like eternal damnation to Earth, doing all the kind of like serious talk, and then excuse my language here, but Edward Carnby's like, well, bring it on, you shithead. It's like, why is that your response? It's such a tone breaker. I remember sitting there being like, okay, well, I'm not invested in this anymore. It almost feels that the character is kind of similar. So it's weird that it's a good adaptation of something that hadn't come out yet. So I don't know if that's a good point or not. But
is it like the chicken and the egg scenario though, where it's like, I mean, obviously like a game takes years to develop and vice versa for films, but it's like, what came first? Oh, like what bad adaptation came first? Was it the film? Was it that?
I think there was supposed to be a tie-in video game originally with this film.
Ah.
I think after the reception of the film, like Atari like got cold feet and were like, just wait a little bit, let's sit on this for a little bit.
What?
So they like if it was being developed alongside, as you say, there was some of this kind of residue of these ideas, but like really, that's the most Atari thing, isn't it? To like copy things from a film with 1% rating.
By the way, Atari, if you still want to sponsor the show, give me a call. I can hear your silent disappointment there, saying, "Don't you dare sell out to Atari."
How many copies of ET are we gonna have to buy?
Oh God, not enough. I mean, is one enough?
Too many.
Yeah, it's too many. It's a weird franchise. It's like a franchise you think that it would die off after a film like that, but it feels as if Atari wants to back I don't even want to say underdog, because at this point it's not an underdog. Underdog would suggest that it has a chance of actually going anywhere. And maybe did you think that's too cruel to say?
Well, I mean, I was just going to say it's an underdog in the sense that it's been buried under the earth.
Do you know, I was thinking the same thing, and I thought, no, I was thinking, no, better not say that. That may be too cruel. So thank you for taking the plunge.
It's a metaphorical dog. It's not.
I know, yeah. A metaphorical underdog.
It's just a real company.
But sorry, go on.
I mean, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, other than, yeah, that's just the acting's terrible, the editing's terrible. A lot of fun.
The costumes are terrible.
Oh, the costumes are cheap
The
shit.
set design is awful. His apartment. Can we briefly rag on his apartment? So we go to Carnby's apartment, which basically, like, how would you describe it? Is it like in a warehouse?
It's like if Night at the Museum flushed, then that would be the result of what was left. You know, just it shoves everything. Like, he's got artifacts everywhere. It's like an open plan. Do you know what it reminds me of? And maybe this is a bit niche, but do you remember when we were playing Heavy Rain for our T-pos in Madison Page's apartment?
Oh, yes.
Where it's like the huge artist, like, open plan thing, and it is very similar. But it's more like a warehouse, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just with artifacts and a big bed in the middle. And then there's a scene where, and I did laugh at this because he's supposed to be like the byproduct of like a secret organisation, and his love interest somehow like breaks in, and yeah, they just randomly start having a love scene. Like, she breaks in, she starts touching his back, then they start making out, and it's very PG-13. Well, I suppose I was like 12A, but you know, it's very like PG-13 kind of, oh look, kissing, oh no, she has a bra, and then fade to black and things. And honestly, just thank God they cut it short, because I don't think I could have handled more of that bad acting. See, this is the thing I was saying earlier about it being written by a child. The reason I say that is because it hits all the beats that you would think a film like this would hit. You know, it hits like, oh, we need to have an action scene, we need to have a love scene, we need exposition at the beginning, we need a conclusion. But it's like, he took the first idea and he just ran with it. If you know what I mean, he just took the first idea and ran with it. There was no like, oh, maybe we can make this a bit better, or maybe we can make that a bit better, you know. So sorry, to answer your question, his apartment's terrible.
Yeah,
like, sorry.
What looks like a recently deserted warehouse, sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry, can I just say, do you know what it reminds me of? You know when you get that stereotypical stranger danger adverts, and it's like the guy going around with free candy written on the side of a white van? This is the equivalent of that if the free candy van was a museum. That's the only way to describe it. It's like he's got all these artifacts, but you would not touch this thing with a 10-foot barge pole. You would just be like, I'm walking away. It's like, come on, kids, you want to see my Abkhari gold rings? It's like, yeah, no, nope, police, please.
It's the same thing with the government. The government bureaus headquarters is the exact same. And like, oh my god, it looks like the other half of the warehouse. To be honest, just like they're sharing. They're both tenants.
In all honesty, it's probably the same place they filmed in.
So
that's just coming from someone who's like worked in an office, and I mean as well, like with lecture theatres and things like that, you know, it's like, I mean, obviously I'm sure you've seen this as well, but it is like, usually in offices like that, or government ones, it's all kind of cramped together and it's quite efficient. In this one, it's like all the desks were, like, one was in Timbuktu, the other was in London, and I mean that in the sense that they were both like so far away from one another in the room, and it's like, why was this needed? And then there's like a random console at the top that's supposed to be like, I don't know, the master like console compared to the rest of them, and it's only run by 2 people in the end, and you're like, what? How? And then they've got their servers like right behind them, which I have to admit that's semi-true, but you know, it's like the rest of it, you're like, why is this a thing? I don't get it. I don't get this kind of environment.
Their uniforms as well. Like we had a good on the government office. So the uniforms for this super secret government bureau are like literally a black T-shirt, a pair of black trousers, and then a black baseball cap.
Oh, you mean the Marks and Spencer's winter range?
Exactly. That is exactly what it is, and it looks so crap. Like it's been a long time since I think I've seen it. I'm like, wow, that is a horrific like costume choice.
You're not wrong. I have to say, you're not wrong.
But you know what? It's in keeping with like everything about this film. As we've said, from effects to music to editing. Yeah.
I honestly don't think there's anything else I could really say, like, other than
I think we've put as nice a bow as we can on this turd. Like, If you were then to sum up this film, like in your feelings about it and watching it, is there anything you'd like how would you sum it up?
Lazy.
Fair enough.
Like, I feel as if... See, this is the thing I was saying. I was so conflicted about this film because, on the one hand, it is a film that is so lazy. Like, as I said, I've never played an Alone in the Dark game, but let's face it, it's not a very good advertisement for it. But, like, can you imagine all, like, two Atari fans, going to the cinema to see this, and then all of a sudden just being so let down that it went from, like, this, again, I've not played it, but, like, this kind of more subtle take on trying to like find demons and things to, oh yeah, Uwe Boll gave Christian Slater a gun. Just said, yeah, go
Tara Reid's there.
Yeah. Oh, and Tara Reid, let's not forget her. I have to admit, that's one of my favourite scenes in this film, where she runs up and she's like, Edward, kisses him and then slaps him and goes, you bastard, or something. It's like, what? What did you do? It's going back to that thing of, oh, we need a conflict scene, and that was the best take they got. All one of them. It's so lazy in that regard. And again, I'm not a filmmaker, I'm not an adapter, but let's face it, we could have definitely done a better job.
I'm fairly confident we could have.
I feel as if that's what probably everyone says when they're like, oh, we could have done a better job. But genuinely, I feel as if we could have done a better job because there is no way you could do... Let me put it this way. There's no way you could have done a worse job.
Oh, God, yeah.
From a better job to a worse job, there's no way you could do a worse job than this. It's just a marvel. It's one of these, like, capsules of everything's wrong at once. But that's what I said before, like, I'm really conflicted because I had a blast watching it with you and it was a lot of fun. So it's not the worst bad film I've ever seen, but if I was watching this on my own, I would definitely rank it there.
Oh,
but,
God, yeah.
as I said, there's far too many cons compared to the pros to actually balance this film out. What about yourself, though?
I would just echo you and say, this is a dreadful film. It's dreadful, and there's so little to redeem it. I have to be honest, though, it's not the worst film I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That crown is held by Birdemic still. It's relatively competently shot, and there are some laughs to be had as well. I think there are actually... None of them are, like, intentional. They were all unintentional, I'm pretty sure. But there's one amazing pratfall where a guy, like, one of these, like, random agents, like, steps on a bit of floor, and like, he's like, Marco, be careful! And it just, like, away instantly, and it falls into this spike trap. I just found that hysterical. I don't know why, but I'm a sucker for that.
I was gonna say, because like you said, random agent, and I'm like, how could you not remember Marco? Because immediately after that, I sent you a message saying Polo.
You are saying that's why I enjoyed it so much. I say enjoyed it so much. But hang on, let me rein back in. I really enjoyed it. It's a bad adaptation. Like, there's no denying. But part of me is like, this isn't a very good franchise. So at the end of the day, like, I can't. If this was maybe like a Mass Effect film or like a BioShock film, and it was this quality, I would be up in arms about it. But it's Alone in the Dark, man. This franchise is dead. This franchise is basically dead, and it has very few good games in it at all. So I can't really be that mad about it. Like, this is, I would say this is a film to watch once with some friends, like I did with you. You can have a good time with it. You can laugh at the stuff. You can make all these stupid jokes, everything, and get some great running gags going through it. Watch it once with some friends, and then consign it to the dustbin where it belongs. That's my review of it.
10 out of 10. Yeah.
10 out of 10. I'm going to go on Rotten Tomatoes and see if I can get that 1% up.
1.5. We did it, guys.
We did it.
Yeah, let's get it trending. Hashtag Alone in the Dark 1%. We are the 1% who like it. Yeah, because you probably can't get 0% in Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, you can. There are actually quite a few with 0%.
Really? Wow.
Because I went looking, because I thought the same. I was like, this must be like the worst. This must be like one of the like lowest ranked films. But there are quite. I think it ranked at like number 42.
Wow.
Out of like the worst films, there are a lot of films sitting at 0%. So you can apparently get worse. I shudder to think.
See, this is the thing. Like, I again, like, reiterating what I said before, it's a bad film, but again, I never felt bored, and I don't know whether that was more because you were there, or like, if I watched this on my own, this is a film I would definitely never watch again. But because you were there, and we were cracking jokes with one another, there's material there. That's the thing. Like, it's a bad film, but, like, for example, going back to Turkish Star Wars, because I'm sorry, I hate that film with a passion. It's one of these films that, when the topic of bad movies comes up, everyone says, oh, Turkish Star Wars, it's so funny, it's so weird. I have never been bored, even with all the antics and things. I've never been so bored at a film, and it nearly killed off our friend. Literally. Like, our mutual friend used to have bad movie nights, and, like, at the end of it, he just lay on the floor and they said, yeah, that's the night over. And I kid you not, he didn't get up. He was just like, yep, that's the night over. Let yourselves out. And we did. And apparently he said he lay there for 3 hours until his wife came home and said, are you okay? And he's like, no. He's like, no, I just watched Turkish Star Wars. But that's the thing, though.
It was crazy, isn't it? Like, sorry, I don't mean to go on a tangent.
No, go for it.
I don't mean to go on a tangent, but that film was so good. Would you recommend people watch that?
No. Absolutely not. Here's the thing, a bad, and again, I think like this would be quite a good topic to go into, like for another episode. But I feel as if a good bad film has to have some entertainment value, even if it's low budget, even if the acting's terrible. It has to have a hook. Look at Bone Alone and Silent Night, Deadly Night. So if you guys haven't watched that episode, I think it's episode like 7 or 8. I was like, we did it during Christmas last year, or like the run up to Christmas. It was, yeah. The run up to Christmas.
Yeah, it was Christmas time,
Yeah, we discussed Silent Night, Deadly Night and Bone Alone. And although that was 2 hours of us like ranting about the films, we had a laugh at it. And that's the thing, like, it's good if you have a bad film that at least you can talk about. Like, at least if it's got talking points and bits you can say, that was so ridiculous that it was funny. Because I feel as if, like, the worst thing a bad film can do is be boring.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt Turkish Star Wars was. It was just a film that had all this randomness happening. And that was it. It was just like, oh yeah, we've got these scenes cutting with Turkish Star Wars, actual Star Wars, and yeah. So just to give quick context to that, Turkish Star Wars is basically Star Wars, like the film, but it's like cutting with Turkish actors, isn't it? Like Turkish actors using their own or doing their own story in between, and there's like the cheap fighting and the cheap acting, and it just was boring. Like initially you're like, oh, how's this gonna go? And then by the end of it you're like, I no longer wish to watch films anymore. It's like, how do I make it illegal to watch films? You know, it's like genuinely it was terrible. It was absolutely, sorry for going on that rant there, but I feel as if at least I'll give Alone in the Dark that, and I hope Uwe Boll never like hears this and says like, oh, I've got a fan, because you don't. But you know, like at least it had talking points, and at least we can make jokes about it.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse about a film where you can't riff on it, or if you try to riff on it, it's like there's nothing there to bounce off of. So yeah, sorry for that.
No, it makes a good. It's actually a really good comparison, though. I think because, as you say, like this is more of a classic bad film, and like it's that way. As you said, we had a lot of fun riffing on it and just like making in jokes and everything, and it was kind of it made it fun and entertaining to watch. The way I equate watching Turkish Star Wars is that scene from 2001 where he goes through like jumps through the space portal and it's all the flashing colors, and he's like, ah, that's how I equate Turkish Star Wars, because even though we were all watching it as a group, like, and this was in the before times, and you could actually meet up and do these things.
Yeah.
You know, we were watching together. It was just everybody just sat there in silence, and I was just like, my God. I felt I was going on this existential journey through like time and space and myself and the human condition. But yeah, like, so at least this one you can sit down with friends and you will have fun, I think, for the most part. And then maybe, just as I say, never watch it again.
Yeah. Do you know, see, thinking back to it when we did those bad movie nights, I think there was only one other film which I loathe to actually mention, but there was only one other film I think topped it as being the worst one.
What was that?
It was the Something in Dinosaur Hell one.
Yeah. Barbarian.
The Something censored Barbarian and Dinosaur Hell. Yes, you remember.
I forgot about the censored word.
Yeah, that's why I refused to say it, because that was another one that is just inherently uncomfortable, just purely everything. And you know, it's one of these films you don't know. With bad films, that's the thing. Like with Alone in the Dark, at least there's a huge bat signal saying don't watch this. But
roll up and see the freak.
You're not wrong. But that this is the thing though, it's like why would you do this? Just why would you make a film like this? But again, I don't want to say people are too harsh in this film because they really aren't. But there is a kind of sense of that where you're just like, why would you make this? But there are worse films there. That's the only final point I'm going to say. There are worse films out there.
Yeah.
Like for people who are like doing like the pilgrimage to the bad films and they're like, oh, I can't wait to watch Alone in the Dark. It is bad. It's awful. It's poorly based and everything. But personally, I don't think it's one of the worst films I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen some stinkers. I would say it's terrible. It's definitely up there, but not the worst one, maybe. I mean, you've seen Birdemic. Like, I know your feelings are very clear on that film.
So, like, as a final thing, like we watched Super Mario Bros. The film. A few weeks ago. How do you think this one compares? Like, how do you think Alone in the Dark compares to Super Mario Bros? Both as a film and as a video game adaptation.
Super Mario Brothers compared to this film was a 1-to-1 adaptation and did nothing wrong. Again, I've never seen Alone in the Dark, but I can't imagine any of that was adapted well. Like, whether it's a reboot version or not, I can't imagine any of it was adapted well compared to, what they had before. It's a weird one. It's a very, very weird one. I would say, at least with the Mario one, they kind of took a chance with things. Whereas with this film, with Alone in the Dark, they kind of... You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like a trampoline versus a recliner. I would say Super Mario Brothers was like the trampoline where it was like... I mean, don't get me wrong, not every jump was going to be perfect. Sometimes they didn't jump at all, a la Mario. Go watch our episode on that to get the joke, but... Good episode. But yeah, it's like... that at least took chances to be different. I wasn't a big fan of it, but I can appreciate, like, at least the fun of it. You know, again, this is another group film where if you watch it with other people, with your friends or whatever, or your relatives who you've, like, unknowingly shanghaied into watching it with you, you know, it's like, you'll have fun. You'll have fun and you'll have, like, a good time. With Alone in the Dark, it's as if, as I said, Uwe Boll has looked at the script, said, yeah, that's good enough, and then just reclined back. And instead of jumping up to like take risks and things, I mean, he has taken risks, but they're the laziest risks. It's like, CGI monsters, this and that, and you're like, come on, surely, you could have had something better, but... Again, I was not a fly in the wall, so I don't know what it could have been like, but judging by his personality back then, compared to, testimonies and things like that, I can't imagine he would be a very pleasant person to work with.
It doesn't seem to be. There's no sign there of being like, yeah, this seems like a fun guy to work with.
Yeah, no, he definitely seems like the kind of guy that... Well, I don't think he's probably too far off the directors of the Super Mario Brothers film, where they were quite horrible as well. And again, like, listen to our episode on it, but yeah, they were like pouring coffee on people, they were yelling at other people. It was... Both of these films probably shared the same, like, environment.
And surprisingly did Birdemic as well. There seems to be a running theme with the films we're choosing to review. We're all terrible people in charge of them.
But what are your thoughts on it, though, comparing the two?
I think, honestly, I agree with everything you said. Like, Super Mario Bros. Is an infinitely better film than Alone in the Dark. Super Mario Bros. Has faults, there's no denying. I think the thing that makes this such a bad adaptation, Alone in the Dark such a bad adaptation, is it's not like Super Mario Bros. Like, when they made that film, the Super Mario games were still fairly limited. There wasn't really a developed story to actually take from. There was a fully developed story in Alone in the Dark. You could have taken any plot from any of those games and adapted it, but they didn't. They went on their own weird route, and so that's why it makes it even worse. For all the faults in the way that Super Mario Bros. Film adapted its source material, Alone in the Dark is infinitely worse because like it had more to work with. It had a cheat sheet, but instead of like using the cheat sheet, it wiped its ass with it, and then smeared that on its exam. That's what it did. So yeah, go watch Super Mario Bros. And then watch this film once. And then, as I say, put it in the bin where it belongs.
Or even skim through it. We don't work for Uwe Boll.
No, that's true. Absorb it in whatever format you want.
Yes. Audiobook or, meditation.
Novel.
Uh,
Pop-up book.
did you say pop-up book?
Pop-up book, yeah.
Oh, that's a thing. That's a thing.
It happens.
It's definitely a film. Whether it's good or not, it is a film. And that's literally all I can say about it. I'm like, it's a film.
It's a good closing line, to be honest.
So have you got any closing thoughts about the film?
I mean, pour some out for Agent Miles and security guard Rob. They deserve better, man.
Yeah.
They deserve better than their fate and also being in this film.
And technically the taxi driver as well at the beginning. I don't think he survived.
Oh, I forgot he was Eve. I forgot all about that character.
Yeah.
I genuinely started watching it. That character was going to be like quite a main part, and as you say, like he probably dies.
What, like the Rob Schneider of the
Yeah,
Alone in the Dark
it's gonna be
Universe?
the sort of way of it, but no, yeah. Didn't even give me that.
There isn't any comic relief in this, is there? Like, there's the lines.
No intentional ones.
Oh yeah. The funniest that I cannot stop laughing because every single time. So there's like not an antagonist, but more of a rival character of one of the main agents who works at like I think it's Division 713, and I never really thought much of it until you started making the jokes that it's almost as if there's like tension between them, but almost as if it's about to break out into like a romantic comedy.
A very particular kind of tension between.
Yeah, a particular kind. And it was like, because it was like, they'd be arguing, they'd be like, you're stupid, no, you're stupid. And you would just be texting me in all caps saying, my God, kiss already. It's like,
Each other's face is like, come on.
it was interesting looking at it through that lens, and it's like, you know what, you're not wrong. Somehow you're not wrong about this interpretation. And I doubt he intended it, but because I bet you the way Uwe Boll directed it, he thought, oh yeah, look at these two macho men getting in each other's faces, and yeah, little look at them going like, you're a rogue agent, you're out of line, you're a loose cannon. And we are just like, haha, they're in love. It's like, I don't
You
think...
guys.
You guys. Yeah, I don't think he would have appreciated that. There was a lot of weird, like, scenes in the film, though, wasn't there, where it was like they were trying to make them very macho without making them. It's like, tell me you're macho without telling me you're macho. And it's like, oh, he's got big guns, he's got a leather jacket, and it's like, really? Okay, that's fair enough. Like, I genuinely didn't know where they were going with it. It was kind of like, what is the end game here? what is happening? So yeah,
It's like tell me you're macho without telling me you're macho. Does an inner monologue count?
yeah.
I'm macho. It's like you launched another one of those. I would like curl up on the floor.
But you're right though. There was like 3 of them. Oh, we forgot to mention. Sorry, before we wrap up, we forgot to mention Fish. So there's a character literally referred to. I think his full name's like Fisher, but he's like just referred to as Fish. And I made the observation that the reason he's called Fish is because he never closes his damn mouth. Except for one scene, and it's the scene where he ends up getting infected. Spoilers. If you've come this far and cared about spoilers, I'm so sorry. Yeah, he does not close his mouth, and he's like, oh yeah, let's see what this is. Oh yeah, this. It's like, oh my God, close your mouth. Because literally there's a scene where he gets into like an argument with the like main not antagonist, the rival, and he's like, you want to tell me what you're doing out here? Oh, well, now closing my mouth. And I was sending you messages in all caps like, oh my God, just close your mouth. Just once, close your mouth. And then the one scene he does close his mouth is the scene where he, ironically enough, gets like a bug shoved down his throat. And what I found hilarious was we were talking, I don't know whether it's the same character, but see, for the sense of comedy, I'm just going to say it's the same character. There's a character at the very beginning who's like the archaeologist, but he's fishing at the beginning, so we just called him the fisherman, and he breaks into Fish's house. He's the one who like offs him, and I was like losing my shit at this scene. I was like, oh, the fisherman has got the fish. I repeat, the fisherman has caught the fish. Oh, I was absolutely over myself. I was just like, this is the best film ever. 10 out of 10. It's like poetry. It rhymes. As George Lucas once said, it's like poetry. So yeah.
I must say you were on top form when we were watching that. You were like coming out with all the zingers, and I was like, I'm just so glad I'm watching this film with you.
Oh, thank you. Same to you, by the way, because some of yours, I was like drinking. I was like drinking some water, and all of a sudden, all I saw was your message. I'm like, I was like, oh god.
I know I couldn't drink when I was watching L2 I was like, God, I was like, Satsu's going to send a zinger here, and I'm going to spill all over myself.
What was the radioactive one I sent you?
Oh God, what was that again?
What was the guy's name? Because honestly, I've forgotten now. Edward, what was it?
Carnby.
Oh yeah, because you said because he gets beeped with the. It's supposed to be like a, I don't even know, like a kitchen timer, I think. Something like that. It's like beep beep, and you said, "Oh, he's radioactive," and instead of Carnby, I was like, "Oh, who is he? Edward Carnoble or something like that." I was like,
Carnoble, that was it.
Oh, I was just like, this film. This film broke me. Some places I was just like, yes. Because I think it was at that stage. It's, you know that way I get when we do Let's Plays together, and there's just that breaking point where I just go into a manic stage. Yeah, if you haven't seen this, go watch I think it's episode 7 of our like Warzone Let's Play. Or the compilation as well, where I get my hands on a drone. And I feel as if like at that point I was at breaking point after losing so many games. I was just like, woohoo, let's go. That's how I felt. That's how I felt with this film. I was just like, woohoo, let's go.
That breaking point.
Yeah, it's like the UV bowl limit. There should be a term for that. Classified as something.
Oh my God, let's get that put into the medical dictionary.
I know. Let's do it, guys. Let's get it trending.
UV bowlism.
Let's get it trending on Twitter, or I don't know. Do kids still use MySpace?
We'll be after we're finished.
So thank you guys. If you want to see more of our content, you can follow us at myspace.com. God, can you imagine? Oh God, I don't even know if MySpace is still a thing. And this kind of tells like a lot about the film, isn't it? The last note we're ending on is about MySpace, rather than the actual film.
The fact that we've gone into diversions about MySpace and Turkish Star Wars, I think, is the most perfect critique of what we think of this film.
Oh God, you're telling me. So yeah, is there anything else you would say about this film?
No, like I would just say, like, if you want to watch it, gather some friends. You know, if you can gather them in person, even better. But you could said we did it remotely, and we still had a blast. Enjoy it, and then maybe watch Turkish. I don't know whether to recommend it. As a cultural experience, watch Turkish Star Wars, but not as a film.
It's a cultural experience.
As an existential, as a journey through the self. Watch it.
Adam, I wanted to ask you.
I have mixed feelings about that. I can't describe it. Like, you know.
Adam, blink twice if you need help. Are the Turkish Star Wars people blackmailing you to promote this film?
The Turkish Star Wars mafia have got their hooks into me.
It's like, can you imagine that though? It's like you get the tourism adverts where it's like, wow, Turkey's so beautiful. The culture, the arts and everything. And then you turn around and it's just a thing of Turkish Star Wars. And it's like, oh, that's why.
Kids, roll up your windows.
We're in the bad part of Turkey. Roll them up, I say. So is that your final answer?
That's my final answer. There you go. Make of it what you will.
Yes, so to conclude our hour and a half discussion of this, don't watch Turkish Star Wars. Oh, and something about Alone in the Dark, I don't know. I wasn't paying attention, but yeah, mainly that. But yeah, thank you, Adam, for leading the discussion in this one, and watching this film with me.
No, thank you for not like instantly kicking me out of Satsunami when I suggested it.
It wasn't the worst.
It wasn't the worst.
I mean the experience, I don't mean the film. The film's terrible still.
Oh yeah.
So is Turkish Star Wars, but mainly that. So next week we will be diving into Turkish Star... In fact, you know what? I can't even make that joke without heaving because I feel as if I would have to commit and I really don't want to.
Do that for a special. We ever hit like some milestone, we'll save Turkish Star Wars for that.
Yeah, 1,000 listens on Satsunami, and we will watch Turkish Star Wars and review it again. We'll even do it in person.
Oh my god, yes, we have to. Well, let's get like a live event.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. We could
live
actually
screening.
record it live. Yeah, but not
That'd be amazing.
Not the film itself, because I feel as if it would get DMCA to hell and back. But
we'll just say you stole stuff from a film first, so we're just
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I may have stolen this footage from them, but let's face it, they stole my free time and will to go
Who's
on.
the real victim here?
Yeah, who's the real victim for watching Turkish Star Wars here? Me or the... Yeah, still me. You know, I'll have to message our friend and see if he's alright, because I don't think he was the same after that night watching that film.
Never got up off his floor ever again.
Yeah. And it's weird, because we went away scot-free, like skipping away, thinking, haha, alone in the dark, so... Yeah.
That's true. That's true. You know, be grateful for what you have. Be grateful for what you get to watch sometimes.
Yes, be good.
It may be bad, but it's not like it doesn't crush your soul and make you question
Yeah.
the human condition.
This got deep really fast.
It really did, I don't know. Yeah.
So next week, no, joking. Can't say it. Yeah, once again, thank you, Adam, for joining me on a part with this discussion of Turkish Star Wars.
I know. Apologies for this getting
No.
derailed.
I'm the one that brought it up. To be fair, I'm the one that caused this mess. It's like, no, Pa, it's mine. No, Pa, it's my film. I'll take it out back. Terrible film.
Get the Turkish Death Star.
I know. Did that have a death? You know what? I'm not even gonna ask.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. No, before we go back into more discussion.
No, it's like, no.
Pull the plug.
No, cut the feed. Cut the feed. And yeah, thank you to all you lovely listeners out there joining us, both live and in the future, listening to us back. We really appreciate it. If you want to see more of the Satsunami content, you can catch us on Anchor, Spotify, really any podcasting app, because just type in Satsunami. Same with YouTube as well. We've got a YouTube channel for these for past episodes. So yeah, if you don't have like Spotify or those kind of apps, then yeah, check us out on YouTube. You can check out the past episodes, as you said, of the Super Mario Brothers film, Birdemic, our discussion about Bone Alone, and what was the other one? Oh yeah, Silent Night, Deadly Night. So yeah, check us out there. And yeah, if you want to check out more of my content personally, you can check me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and of course Twitch, and Facebook as well. Keep forgetting about Facebook. Yeah, and Twitch as well, under the name Satsunami42. On YouTube, check out our Let's Play series T-Posing, which I have to admit has been a lot of fun to do with you and Green Shield.
Oh, it's been so good.
That has been. So we've been playing through games like Warzone, GTA, Heavy Rain, which has been amazing as well, and Breath of the Wild. So that's been a lot of fun. And yeah, check us out there. As always, stay safe, stay awesome, and most importantly, if a rogue UV bull approaches you, contact the authorities or the nearest adult, and they will be able to, well, I would say they'll be able to protect you, but let's face it, you got several movies out of this, so out of video games, so you know,
probably screwed.
Yeah, you're probably screwed, so it was nice knowing you. So yeah, on the final note, stay hydrated. Bye guys.
Bye bye.